Let's welcome Carrie McConkey, who was chosen Best Blogger by the American Advertising Federation's Knoxville chapter. She hasn't been blogging all that long. Whatever she takes on, she does really well. She's going to tell us attention-getting strategies for behind-the-scenes people. So, Carrie?
Oh, thank you. This has been so fun chatting with everybody. I forgot for a minute that I needed to present. So let me try to, because I'm a very nervous presenter. So you all got me really relaxed. So thank you. But yes, and I'm kind of a newbie, I feel like, still to the group because I joined right before COVID. So it's like I just had a taste, but and it seems like I'm always busy on the nights that we do virtual meetings like this. So I was really glad because this forced me to be here. I was glad that Bob asked, and I was very, very flattered. So yes, hello. As Cindy said, I'm Carrie McConkey. I live in Knoxville. I'm not from here, but have lived here since '81. So it's been a while. And I own Carrie M Creative. I'm a freelance writer. I do website content, blogs, bios, lots of copywriting for clients. So I have a PowerPoint presentation, and it's kind of simple, and I'll share it with everybody. Let's see. And let's see if I can, oh, here it is. All right. Okay, good. I thought, where did everybody go? There you are. See you on the side. Okay, and everybody can see. Good. All right. So, attention getting strategies for behind the scenes people. This is today's presentation, and when Bob and I were kind of going back and forth with email, he said, just nuts and bolts. You could do a million things, but we've only got 45 minutes. So I'm going to try to share a lot of good tips, and hopefully you can get at least one nugget out of it, or something you can take with you that might help you. Some of the suggestions you may already be doing, but I thought I would just introduce myself a little bit and tell a little bit about my background and how that has led me to hopefully giving you a valuable presentation tonight. So, a little bit about me. When I was a little girl, I really, like many of you, I'm sure, loved to read. This is a newspaper clipping. I was 2 years old. It was in our local paper. I was in Cynthiana, Kentucky, which is near Lexington, and it says, Carrie Owen, 2-year-old daughter of Mr. and Mrs. Sterling Owen, enjoys the books at the Cynthiana Public Library. And I was enjoying them quite a bit. And this basically looks like me now. I still have books surrounding me. There is no time to read them all, but somehow I want to sit among them. So that's me and my childhood. Moving forward a little bit, in the second grade, I wanted to be an author. And if you can you all see my cursor? When I grow up, I want to be an author and an artist. So that was age 7. I had my love affair with books continuing. Then my mom taught me how to sew just 1 year later, age 8. This is me cross-stitching, and it changed my world. I absolutely loved sewing. I designed clothes for my Barbie dolls. I always had a needle in my hand. And it kind of derailed my plans to be an author, because when I grew up, you can see I just did all kinds of different things. Got my bachelor's degree in interior design at Carson Newman University. And then the pull of sewing kept tugging at me. So I opened a small home-based business designing bridal apparel. Back when home-based businesses weren't a thing, back in the 90s, we didn't have social media. And then I ended up going into career services, which I really loved. I did that at UT. While I was there, I got a master's degree in human resource development. Then I went into career services at Maryville College. Then I ended up getting recruited into fundraising at Maryville College. Then I worked at Zoo Knoxville. Then I went to Catholic Charities of East Tennessee as a fundraiser. Then, and I really did get to work with the animals at Zoo Knoxville. It was the best thing ever. I got to actually help with the rhinos and the elephants as a junior zookeeper one day. I dubbed myself a junior zookeeper, but also, then after that, I ended up opening a business as, did I skip a slide too? Let's see. Nope, I haven't. Okay, good. I opened up a business as an image consultant and fashion consultant. And now we were in the 21st century. So there was social media and internet. So I kind of went back into the fashion world, clothing, and then finally made my way back to writing. And that happened because as an image consultant, I had been asked by Knoxville Style magazine to write a Q&A kind of Dear Abby style column about fashion, just real women's questions about fashion, about their closets, and I could write the column. And at the time I thought, well, yeah, this is a great business move, and sure, I'll do that, but I did not expect to feel that love of just words and composing my columns and determining, it was almost like designing to me, you know, what words was I going to use, what alliteration, what synonyms could I find, you know, so I didn't use the word shoes 50 times. And it was just wonderful. So come to the present, since we've been in COVID, I have actually pivoted my image business to the freelance writing, because it is part of your image, what you have in words, what you have online about you really reflects, you know, who you are and how you want to present yourself. So it's been a good fit. In that time, I have written for different magazines. It's always a thrill. I love to see the article when it comes out, and have done blogs and, as I mentioned before, press releases, copywriting, website content for all of the different companies that you see. And hot off the presses, the Big Coup, my most exciting project, happened this week, and I'm going to be doing some blogs for Biltmore Estate. So I'm very, very, very nervous but excited about that. So evidently my winding path has led me back to the floor of that library, being surrounded by words and books, and I'm happy for it. So my biggest career conflict doing all those different things was that I am an introvert. I am 100% introvert, and I grew up in an extroverted household. I behave like an extrovert. I know how to act like one, but I am an introvert 100%. So I think that's one reason why the writing has been such a healthy fit for me, because a lot of the other career positions that I held were on stage, sometimes literally just, you know, mic in my hands and having to be in front of large groups and having to travel and having to just not only be at big events, but plan big events. I mean, pressure. And so that was one of the biggest things I've struggled with all these years until I have made my way back to writing. So that leads us to tonight. And I want to be able to take what I've learned through those years and through having to sort of be a faux extroverted person and hopefully help the group and others who may be a little bit overwhelmed by how to get the word out about yourself when you just don't really want to do that, or we're in this society of just so much noise and so much going on. So how do you make yourself stand out? So basically, I'm going to be covering 3 areas: communication, consistency, and comfort. So I hope, as I said, if you get anything out of tonight, just remember the 3 C's, and we're going to talk about those in detail as we go on. Okay, this was the slide I was worried I had skipped. Please don't hesitate to participate. You know, I know a lot of these Zoom presentations and webinars I've been on, we've all been instructed, put your computer on mute, you know, and I mean, sometimes it's like, you better not put it off mute or you're going to get in trouble. But I want this to be a group tonight that we can all talk like we did at the beginning. And I'm going to be focused on the slides, but chime in, say, hey, Carrie, I have a question, or go ahead and, you know, just make a comment. If you've done something like what I'm talking about, say, yeah, I've done that before. Let me know, let the group know, and share. If you do write things in the chat box, I may or may not see it. If Cindy or someone or Keifel wants to say, hey, Carrie, somebody has a question. But most of all, I just want you to feel relaxed and like you can participate in this meeting tonight. Don't feel like you have to be silent, because I have already learned a lot from you guys just from the time we spent before this started. So, communication. Has anybody heard of Drayton Bird? Anybody know who he is? He is a famous copywriter. He's British. He's 85 years old and still going strong. And he is just a very smart, wise person when it comes to writing. And I love this quote. There's a direct relationship between profit and communication. The more you tell, the more you sell. So that's what we're going to talk about tonight, is how you can tell in a way that fits you. So ways you can communicate. The first way is through media. Now, the wonderful thing about Knoxville is that we are a small enough town that human interest stories can be picked up quite easily. There's not a backlog. There's not a clogging up of folks who, you know, need to get in the media. So quite often, if you have something to share to the newspapers, televisions, or magazines, you may get some press. You might, you know, get a television interview or appearance. It's really easier to do than one would think. So has anybody done that successfully? Has anybody reached out to the media for any reason? No? Well, we'll talk a little bit. Yes.
I did when I worked for a small nonprofit a few years ago. Was able to get,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Bonnie, what did you do?
I got on Channel 10 at 5:30. They have that segment where you can talk about, and I was talking about education because that's what we were about, and did several different things like that. And I've gotten several friends the Daily Times to do stories on people who've had books coming out just because
Yes.
I work there and I had some ends, but it's not that hard.
It's not.
Because the girl there likes to write about books, so.
Oh,
yeah,
exactly.
I know Laura does that a lot and does it really well.
Who?
Laura.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, Laura, I was going to bring you up in just a second. So just your time is coming.
All right. I'm here.
But Bonnie, thank you. Exactly. It's really not, we're just like, there's not really much degrees of separation from being able to get on live at 5 at 4 here in Knoxville. It's great. And we need to take advantage of that. So, you know, you might say, well, what in the world do I let them know about? Lots of different things. Accomplishments, you know, definitely Laura with her book coming out. I know we've got a lot of award winners in our group. If you've won something, and I'm sure, you know, and of course the group puts out information. I know that you're going to probably put a press release out about the Jonathan Taylor donation, and Other things, interesting things that are happening in your field. I'll give you an example of something that was really successful, and I kind of thought, I wonder if this would work, and it did. But when I had started image consulting, I joined a group, the Association of Image Consultants International, and we had an international conference in Chicago. And it really was, there were men and women from all over the world at this conference. So I actually wrote a press release and sent it to the media and said, Knoxville Image Consultant is representing Tennessee at this international conference. And it was true. But it got picked up. I was on the news, and it got written up in Knoxville News Sentinel. And so think about things that maybe to you might not seem as interesting, but really to other people are really fascinating, and reach out to the media. The other thing I like to give tips on is, a lot of times if you go to an event and one of the news people anchors is emceeing or is hosting in some way, which that happens a lot around Knoxville, introduce yourself to them and say hello. And afterwards, usually all the news people have their contact information typically on the internet. So you could always email afterwards and say, it was wonderful to meet you at the whatever event. You did a wonderful job emceeing. But it's really easy to build relationships with local media people here. They're very nice. They're very reachable and approachable. So media is a good way to reach out. And again, it's introverted for the most part. If you're asked to go on television, then you can make a decision as to whether you want to do that or not. But at least, you can probably get the word out, so it will be in print. Online and in-person communities, which we have both nowadays. Professional organizations such as ours, getting the word out about yourself is really just showing up mostly and being present, and not expecting people to find you, but you going out to the people. So joining different organizations, especially national, international types of organizations, can be helpful. It's always great if you want to volunteer to be on the board, as all of you know, because you do things for KWG, but also on a national and international level. It's great to volunteer, to play a role, or help during conferences, because you just get to know people. Basically, again, it's just communicating. It's just saying, hey, here I am, here's what I do, here's who I am. Number 2, Facebook groups. I really love Facebook groups. They can be such a good condensed way of meeting folks who have things in common with you, whether it's the type of genre that you write or whatever it may be that's related to your career. Facebook groups can be fantastic. Has anybody joined a Facebook group that they love and they would like to share? Okay, that's fine. Part of my worry was that in this presentation, everybody would be like, yeah, we already knew that. Yeah, we already. So it's okay if you all are quiet, because then at least I feel like, this isn't old news. But basically, so I know that I have found Facebook groups from referrals from people or just simply searching, but they are very valuable. And I don't always love Facebook, admittedly. I'm not a big social media fan, truly, but I try to use it for the good, and the groups I have found have been terrific. National Novel Writers Month, Writing Month is a great. Has anybody done that? Has anybody jumped into doing that, or does everybody know what that is?
I know what it is.
Okay, I figured you would. I think that there are groups now, and I'd say there are Facebook groups for NaNoWriMo, definitely, but I know that there are groups that you can join to all come together and try to write your 50,000 words. And again, even though that's among your peers, it's still good to get recognition among your peers, and to gain some fans and followers just from your fellow writers. take a class and join a gym. Now this is great because you would probably meet people other than writers, and it's not just taking a class or joining a gym. You can do lots of different things, but I guess my point is to get out there and either online or in person, think about a hobby that you want to develop. I mean, it could be Taekwondo, it could be anything, but when you get out there and start meeting people, it's very helpful for your career because people start to think, when they think of writing, they think of books, they're going to start connecting you with that thought. Now, the key is the bottom that I've written down, insider's tip, is to participate. I know a lot of folks that kind of stealthily go in and observe something and stealthily leave again. And the key is to really speak up and chime in. And even if it's just seeing someone else's post in a Facebook group and saying, what a great idea, or congratulations, it's people seeing your name flashing up there. It's people seeing your profile picture. And it's just that little bit of a presence. And that's what you're aiming for, is just to have a presence, to be in the room, and you don't have to do all kinds of crazy things, but just that you're there. And an example, let's say that you did take a class, let's say you took an art class, participating. Let's go ahead and speak up in the class, ask a question, or speak to your neighbor that you're sitting next to. Just participate so people can kind of start to connect who you are with what you do.
That's literally how you and I met, Carrie.
I was just thinking that as I was saying those words, Bonnie. I was like, should I talk? Okay, so I'm just going to tell it. So I sat next to Bonnie at my first meeting, my first KWG meeting, and I sat next to her, and she was wonderful. She is the best example for this presentation because there's so many things that she did, and she welcomed me and asked about me, and I felt so included. And she had her business card and it said freelance writer, and I was just like, oh, that's what I want to be. I was so excited, Bonnie. And so I went, and she had her website. I looked at it, and but we bonded and we followed up with each other, and we've just have been friends since. Yeah. It's been wonderful. So that is a perfect example.
You never know who you're going to meet.
Yep, exactly. And she was kind enough to meet me for lunch shortly after that, so I could quiz her all about writing, and it was delightful. But she became one of my early mentors and just somebody I really looked up to, and could,
That's scary, Carrie.
It's true though. I thought, wow, look, this is amazing. Virtual and in-person events, conferences, webinars, big and small. You can do a webinar like this one. That's a pretty small, intimate group. Or you could do an online conference, or you could go to a real conference, big or small. But going to, again, showing up and being there, smiling and saying hello and meeting people is such a good way to get the word out. But just pick what you feel comfortable with. Don't force yourself to do something that you don't want to do, but be open to it. And especially, I think, with Zoom, it does make it a little bit easier to participate in group events and not get that overwhelmed feeling of so many people and so much hubbub. Also, public speaking opportunities. Now, I do know a lot of introverts who do not mind public speaking one bit. Bonnie, how do you feel about public speaking? Because I know you teach.
Yeah, it's fine with me. I had to kind of force myself early on, but it was something I knew I needed to do and needed to learn how. And it doesn't bother me now. I still get a little nervous, but it doesn't really bother me.
Anybody else?
I'm not totally an introvert either, so.
Anyone else?
What about Laura?
Yeah.
Kind of people all the time.
Now that's my job now, is to be a one-woman show for like 90 minutes to 2 hours. So I'm an introvert too. And yes, initially that was difficult, but I'm fortunate that I had some training in acting when I was young. And that helped, just to kind of, because I had exercises that I could do to try to talk myself out of my stage fright. And there's still a little bit, I think, of nervousness even now when I go up to do a speaking event, but that just keeps me sharp, in my opinion. I think if once you lose that stage fright, you're going to just be, boring and blasé. You got to be able to focus, and it just really does help me focus to know that these people are wanting, something from me, and I've got to give it to them. And even if I don't feel 100%, you got to put the game face on. Just say, okay, I can, you can. It is really difficult sometimes. It's very useful to say to yourself, I am playing Laura, the public speaker now. I am Laura, the storyteller now. I'm not Laura that just sits at home and says, oh gosh, I'm so tired. That's not the Laura I am right now. I got to be this other Laura. So, that's, it's been useful to me to be able to detach myself sometimes from my own personal feelings and just say, okay, this is what needs to be done. This is what you do. So,
Laura, I love that. This is Laura, the public speaker. I love that, because I have really suffered from stage fright. It was so bad that I actually stopped doing speaking engagements in 2019. So this is one of the first ones that I've done. But if you can handle it, or if you have the ability like Laura and Bonnie to get over that and sort of psych yourself out, it's a mental thing, then public speaking opportunities abound. I mean, there are so many organizations. Just think of your regular ones, Rotary Club and Kiwanis and all of your regularly meeting groups. There are hundreds of them, and they all want guest speakers, and they want them to be talking about all kinds of different things, from just interesting topics to bodies of work that you're involved in, or just tips on things. So if you at all have any kind of interest, or you can handle and tolerate public speaking, I know the library, Knox County Library, has a website, and you can actually go in and search all of the local professional groups, and they've got the content. Yeah, it's really neat. You can always call the library too. The librarians are fantastic, as I'm sure you all know, and say, hey, I'm interested in tracking down some of our local women's groups, and like Laura, you could do, and to talk about your book, especially since you are an actress and you have conquered being able to get over that stage fright, but you could do this and say, I want to know about women's groups, and you can do a search and pull up all the local women's groups, and it will have their contact person and their contact information, and you just contact them and call them up and say, hey, I will do some speaking presentations.
It's very easy to get these engagements. I mean, and it gets to the point, if you do a couple of them, they come after you, because they all talk to each other and say, oh, if you're looking for somebody who'll do it, because most of them don't have an honorarium, but they give you a free lunch or something. But like today, I got a call from a group I'd never even heard of.
Yeah.
And they had somehow gotten my name and wanted me to come talk, and they weren't. It's funny, because I'm not sure the lady who called us even knew very much about me at all. I don't know who she got my name from, because she was like, we sent her a bio, because she, like I said, I don't think she'd ever heard of me personally, but somebody told her to call me. So that's just.
Exactly. You said so many things that are true. Number one, it's like, again, Knoxville's a small town. So once the word gets out that you are available for speaking, you will get calls, you will get people asking. And also, yes, they usually can't pay, but if you are strategic about the groups that you talk to, it definitely gets the word out about who you are and people. And plus, again, it's a small town. I've gone I've spoken in front of groups before and then actually have run into people and they've said, oh, I saw you speak at such and such, and we could reconnect. So it's a wonderful way, if you can tolerate it, to get the word out. And it's, again, so accessible here in Knoxville.
Eventually, you do run into those gigs where you get an honorarium, like the one that came today. There is a small honorarium attached, and basically you have to not be shy about asking. And
Yes.
I'm very fortunate that I have Brent answering the phone because he is not shy about asking. So is there an honorarium, but does she get mileage for this?
Oh, perfect. And if they absolutely can't, then you can always ask for different things, like getting a testimonial that you can put on your social media or website, getting them to post about you on social media, getting them to videotape. You can do a lot of different things that will help give you some collateral that has a value in itself, just in case they can't.
Yeah.
But I love
Carrie, two other things that you can do with those that I did when I was doing more speaking engagements that I have been lately is get them on your email list.
Yes.
So that you can send out, things that you're doing or going or selling or whatever. And don't just send them something when you're selling something, but also send other stuff. But the other thing is, I did a lot of editing for a while, and that was the way I found clients. And I would offer them a phone call at a later date where I could talk to them about my services. And I was able to get quite a few clients that way. So it's a big help, but you have to go in prepared. You have to have an ask at the end of your talk, and then also have a sign-up sheet for the email to get their consent.
Yeah, that's another thing that I was going to say about making sure that you find some way they can keep in touch with you. You hand out business cards like Bonnie does sometimes. Also, I always ask if they're not, there's not an honorarium involved. I can ask, is it okay if I talk about my tours, if I bring brochures for that, or can I bring my books like this one? I'm bringing books to sell. Is that an opportunity for me to sell my book? So that's, for a writer, you need to always ask if you can bring books to sell. That's just standard. You've got to bring your book if you've got one. So,
bingo. Thank you, ladies. Yes, absolutely. All of those things. Before you get the word out, though, however, know yourself. I think that's one of the biggest things that many of us can agree on. We really need to understand who we are, what we're all about, what we do, what we stand for. So I always love to encourage folks to just think about their why, what drives them, what fuels them, and be able to answer questions about what you do and why you do it before you go into those public scenarios. And most importantly, what is your end goal? Like Laura and Bonnie said, the end goal is to get new clients. The end goal is to be able to sell your books. What do you want to come out of this, and then work your way backwards instead of kind of just diving in. Get prepared. Basically, I know everybody says, oh, get a website. And some people think, oh, I could just have a Facebook page. Really, I highly recommend getting a website. I really do. It's so easy now. There are many do-it-yourself websites that turn out really looking darn good. And now website design, you can get so many, there's just a range of website costs. I think for mine, I probably paid $2,000 to $3,000. Websites can go up to $10,000. I mean, they can be pretty astronomical if they're very complex and if they have a lot of features. But if you have a simple site, go ahead and invest, because nowadays, now more than ever in this virtual world that we're living in of the pandemic, a good website is crucial. And the benefit that all of us have is that we're writers, so we can write good content for our website and that will attract people and draw our potential readers and clients in. Number 2, social media accounts. And notice I say account or accounts. I have Instagram reluctantly, Pinterest. No, I don't have Pinterest anymore. I had that to begin with. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. And that's it. But that's too much for me, to tell you the truth. And I try to kind of balance all of them, but definitely have at least one. You want to have just at least one social media account. The more that you have a presence on the internet, the better, because it just allows you to be more searchable, and you stand up above the rest if you have an internet presence. Sorry about that. Headshots. I just did an article about this for Knox.biz magazine, and a lot of people, again, kind of like the website, they think, oh, you know, here's a good picture of me that my cousin took, and I'm going to use this as my headshot. And I have to beg to differ. I really feel like investing in a professional headshot is going to pay you back just so much, because really, I think you only have to get really a good new headshot every 3 years. I would say no longer than that. If you want to do it more than that, that's fine. But go ahead and hire a professional, because you will use it in so many different instances. You're going to use it on social media. You will use it if you do public speaking. They're going to want a bio and a picture. It just gives that professional edge that others don't have. And it's an investment of time and money. But again, you can kind of find there will be higher price photographers and there will be lower price photographers, but do interviews with different professional photographers, see who you like, see who you have good chemistry with, and who is in your budget. It's worth it. And finally, business cards. Bonnie was an example. She had that card to hand me, and buddy, I had mine to hand her. And again, people kind of poo-poo it. They're like, oh, it's paper, just put their name in your phone. And that's great, but if you've just met somebody and you put their name in your phone, are you going to remember their name if you want to look them up again? I don't know. That's what I think. I don't know if I'll remember that person's name. But on a business card, you can have your website, just like I said about Bonnie's. You know, she had her name, what she did, her website, her email address. You can even do things on the back of the card. When I went to that image consulting conference, all the image consultants had something on the back of their card. They maximized both sides of that card. So that's something that, again, you can do things online that barely cost anything to get cards, or you can support a local printer. I do that. I pay way too much for my business cards, but I want to support our local businesses. And I like to walk into a place and tell them what I want and have them make up a mock-up for me. So I have to say, even as electronic as our world is now, I am all for business cards. A word to expand on the social media aspect. Again, use a clear photo. Please don't use a selfie. And I'm going to say this at the risk of offending. I hope I don't offend anybody. Please don't use a selfie in the seat of your car with your seatbelt on. And if somebody has one, but I just have to say, I have a thing about that. It's like you're in your car, and I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the lighting. Maybe it's like the diffused lighting coming from all the windows of your car, and it's very flattering, but no. And like I said about taking one every 3 years, please use a recent one. I have a client, and I swear she had taken a selfie as her headshot in her car. And the day that I met her, she did not look like the person in the car seat taking a selfie. And that's really not good. She's in a public role. And I feel like how many other people are thinking, you know, or not even seeing her because they're looking for the girl that was in the seat, and it's not her now. This is later, and she looks different. So don't do that. Also, I've seen people who have a group picture and they'll crop just themselves out of the group picture. And again, I don't want to offend if anybody has done that. Don't do that on your professional, don't do that as a professional. Don't put that on LinkedIn or Facebook. Really get a clear picture of yourself. Choose platforms you can connect with. I said I do Instagram reluctantly, and I really do. I started off as an image consultant thinking, well, I'm going to post pictures of fashion and post, visual things, which was true, but I never really got into it. I'm just not into it. Some writers are. Has anybody heard of Joanna Penn?
Yes, I have. I just read a book of her.
Oh my gosh. She's amazing. She's got podcasts. She uses Instagram beautifully. She does it all. There is nothing she cannot do. She does fiction, nonfiction. She does everything.
And she makes a living as a writer.
Oh my gosh. And then some. I mean, oh goodness. But she uses Instagram and will put photographs. If she's writing a book, she'll put the pictures of the place she's writing about or the inspiration. And she's really made it a wonderful reflection of her writing. So choose a platform or platforms that you feel that you really connect with, and that that you feel like you fit in the vibe that's going on. Fill out all the available areas. I know Facebook, for instance, has the about section, and go ahead and fill out everything that you can to fill out, because it's free advertising. If you do your little bio in Instagram or on Twitter, put a link to your website, hopefully if you get a website or if you have one, and just put the information on there that people can find. And maybe not all. I know a lot of people say, they'll say really warm and fuzzy things, but like how they love tomatoes, I don't know, and that's all good, but yet you should really also put what you do and what your niche is and what your genre is, and try to inform people in a professional manner, because that's what's going to catch editors' eyes and things like that, is when you really can describe what you do. Look at peers in your field for ideas. For instance, Joanna Penn, or even each other, or other members. Go ahead and look at their social media platforms and see what they do and take ideas from them. Sometimes, especially if you're overwhelmed, it's a good place to start. That goes for websites too. You can look at other authors, writers' websites and see what they've done and see what you like and what you don't like. Insider tip is be professional, but be unique. And I should have said it the other way around. Be unique, but be professional. Don't be so unique that you look so creative and artsy that, a fast moving editor who is really wanting to know they can count on you to meet your deadlines and may not be sure, be unique, but professional. Introverts can build a brand too. We can build a brand just as much as anybody else, even if we want to be and prefer to be behind the scenes. So number 2, consistency. Now, looking at our time, I know we started a little late, but we're going to be doing pretty good, I think. Be intentional. Consistency is key, because we all know we can bite off more than we can chew. And the next thing you know, you've got lags in when you're posting things. And if you've committed to doing something, it might be hard to keep up. So when you decide to make a plan about getting the word out about something, be intentional about it. Send press releases. And we know that Laura will do that, about her new book. It's a great thing to do. And it goes back to what we talked about earlier with the media. Oh, good. Yay. Here's a new person coming. Contact your alma mater. Oh my goodness. All of our colleges and universities have publications where they tell what alums are doing. And I don't know about you guys, but I always look at my fellow classmates to see what they're up to. And just to get the word out. Again, that's free advertising. You can definitely write to your alma mater or contact them and say, hey, I've just written a new book, or I'm starting a new class, or anything that can get the word out about your business. Create a social media schedule. So I'm sure that you all have heard about Hootsuite and the different social media scheduling tools. Has everybody heard about those? Basically, you can go in ahead of time and create some social media posts and get them into a different system, and the system will put them out on the different days that you set ahead of time. Even if you don't want to go that far and get into some kind of software platform that does that, just write it down. Just create a schedule of what you want to write and when, and what topics you want to talk about. I know I read an article by a person who wrote for the Writer magazine, and she talked about how she had 4 different topics that were always the same. Like week 1, she would interview a fellow author, and week 2 she would do a book review, and week 3, and so each month that week she had her task, and she would just fill it in with whatever different thing that she wanted to represent at that moment. So just be intentional about it, and inform your professional organizations. I know KWG is so good about getting the word out when folks do something and have an accomplishment, but it's good because then you're telling your friends and your peers, and your friends can tell their friends, and it just begins again to solidify what you're trying to let the world know about yourself. Okay, have I lost? Okay, there we go. Decide what you can handle and be realistic. I decided when I turned 50, which was during the year of COVID, it was June of last year, that, and before then, before COVID, I thought when I turn 50, I'm going to do a blog on Medium, and I'm going to write a blog post every month for my entire year of my 50th birthday. So that was probably in 2019 that I thought that. So then 2020 comes and COVID, and I decided to get started on it. And little did I know that like COVID would just be all encompassing for all of us. But I committed to doing a blog post a month on Medium for that year. And I did it. And it was really hard because there was so much going on, and there were deaths in my family. And, you know, I remember coming home from a funeral, having to finish the blog post, and I just thought, this stinks, and I'm 50, and why am I 50 during COVID? You know, like, this is supposed to be so exciting. But anyway, I digress. But the point is, I committed, and now I have 12 posts on this blog that I created. So you have to really make sure that you can stick with it, and that you're up to it and up to the task. Let followers get to know you. I'm amazed. I'm a pretty private person. I don't think I appear that way, but I kind of am. And I've been amazed at how, if I say just the littlest bit about myself, like that blog, it was really hard for me to talk about my own thoughts and feelings, and people were just supportive, and they feel like they know you better, and they feel like you trusted them with information about yourself and your vulnerability. So to kind of help people get to know you, share a little bit, and it could just be the tiniest thing. It could just be a picture of, you know, your pet or something like that that's in a professional. Joanna Penn, again, is a great example. In all of her podcasts, she gives industry updates, and Bonnie, you can help me with this. She gives personal updates, and she'll say, you know, my husband and I are going to travel to see family for Christmas. And so she gives this little range. It's not too heavy in any one area. She just kind of hits a few highlights in her podcast about business things and personal things and what she's working on. That's huge, like sharing what you're working on and the path that you're taking to get there, even if it's not a done deal. You know, if you know that it's in the works, start sharing and getting the word out, and connect with editors and other industry professionals. Twitter's a great place to do this. And, you know, just go ahead and find them and follow them and it's a good place to get noticed, but it is, again, being intentional. The final C is comfort, and I think I've alluded to this throughout the presentation. I hope I have. And it's funny that we have so many cat lovers here. This picture I just adored. When I was thinking about what this slide meant, this cat, I couldn't get away from it. I'm like, this cat is making him or herself comfortable. You know, they're just, look at the tail kind of wrapped around. So basically, don't do what looks good on paper if it's not comfortable for you. And I am the worst about that. I think, well, this will look good on my resume, or this makes sense. I should do this thing because it just makes sense. But you know, maybe it doesn't, because if you don't enjoy it, or if it's not a good fit, it really doesn't make sense. So set that aside. If your gut is telling you, nah, I'm not sure about this, leave it behind. There's enough things to do nowadays that you don't need to do something that doesn't make you happy or fulfilled or drains you. Secondly, and especially in this day and age, do not compare yourself to others. Again, all these things I'm guilty of. You know, we can look at different folks, the Joanna Penns of the world, and think, oh my gosh, like Bonnie said, she does it all, you know, and we can often look at ourselves, but we each have a different story and a different timeline and a different set of circumstances that have made us who we are. And we each have different skill sets and backgrounds that make us all different from each other. So don't compare yourself, especially if you are trying to make an effort to get out there and get the word out about what you do. Do it your way. Don't worry about anybody else. Do what's sustainable. You know, make sure that whatever you decide to commit to, that you can keep doing it, that it will fuel you, and it feels right, and it feels like it's moving in a forward direction. It's not kind of a dead end, or just seems to have more complicated aspects of it each time. You want things to be fluid and easy, and if it's not working, pivot. Don't do it again. You know, I finally, after years and years of getting sick before each presentation from stage fright, I finally just said, I'm not going to do this anymore, you know, and even though I knew it is a great way to get the word out about yourself, do what feels good to you. Think of this cat, you know, what is going to make you feel satisfied and happy, and like you're being your most authentic self. And what that's going to do is attract your readers and your clients to you. The people who like who you are and like what you have to offer and like the style in which you present it are going to gravitate towards you if you are 100% yourself and just let that shine. You're going to attract like-minded people. So wrapping things up, basically the 3 C's. Number 1, communication, just getting the word out either in person or virtually, taking advantage of the fact that Knoxville is a small town and it's very, very accessible. It's so easy. I'm sure a lot of you have had books, and have you gone into local bookstores or gift boutiques and have said, hey, do you want to carry my books? Has anybody done that before? I can't see all of the nods. Is anybody going to say any? Okay.
I was
Sorry,
going
I
to be
can't. Yeah, go ahead.
sincere. I've got people for that, but
But you know what, Laura? Don't rely. Was it Brent? Is that your husband? Don't rely on just Brent. Laura, you've got to walk in. You've got to walk in. You have to put your.
be a smart aleck because I do it myself too. So it's
Okay,
just,
good. It's so valuable because people are entranced. They're like, oh, she wrote a book, you know, and you come in and you are this writer and it's fascinating to people. So that's it too. Don't always send in your people for that. They want to meet the woman behind, you know, the great writing. consistency, secondly. And again, you know, the other thing is, I'll tell you something, there are so many people on Facebook and other social media platforms. Facebook is the worst, I think, because the dates are so easy to see on people's posts. Have you ever been on someone's Facebook page, you looked someone up and their last post was like 2016? I mean, take it down. Take it down. Do not have, don't, it's better to have no presence than something that is years old and obviously has been neglected. Or you'll see somebody on LinkedIn who has 3 connections and no profile picture. And you're like, no, I mean, really think about it. What's the use? What is the use? Like, you don't have a picture, nobody can see you, you haven't filled out your profile, and you have 3 people that you're connected to. It really isn't serving a good purpose, because probably people who do want to connect think, well, if I send something to her, is she even still on LinkedIn? Will she accept my connection? So take stuff off if it's, because that means it's not sustainable. That means it's not comfortable and you don't really want to do it. So get rid of it. Don't worry about it. And that leads to number 3, comfort. You know, you need to be comfortable. And when you do things your way, it's amazing. The more I did things that made me feel good rather than what I thought looked like the right thing to do, the more doors opened. It's just been amazing. And you think, wow, you know, because if you're following your passion, it's going to be contagious and other people want to know about it and want to learn about it. So just remember those 3 C's, and hopefully that can help you get some attention if you're a behind the scenes person. So what have I left out? What questions do you have? What did you perhaps expect to hear about tonight and you didn't? What can I help with? Everybody's good? Good. Well, good. Okay.
You did a good job, Carrie.
Thank you.
Happy news. Yeah.
Well, definitely follow up with me if you do have a question, and maybe you did not want to bring it up in front of the group, but you had some kind of question or something that you wanted clarification on. Please do get in touch, and I would love to hear from you and become better friends with all of you. So thank you again for having me tonight.
Thank you, Carrie.
That's good.
Thank you, Carrie. Thank you.
Thank you.